today as a patron because I think that this Festival of Speed they're having is such a fantastic idea. We've got cars like this, which is actually happens to be one that I started on right the way through the ones way beyond when I retired from rotor racing. The thing is, it's brought back something of what Goodwood was in the early days. Goodwood was the first big race that mattered to us as drivers. We go there, test our latest cars, and if something was wrong, we could try and put it right. But beyond that, there was a social side. All the good-looking people were here, the Debs and debutantes, and you know, all those sort of people with their boyfriends and their Ferraris, and you know, and also the Duke would open up his house and say, well, you know, you're moving with nice people in nice places. It really was superb. Come all the way from Australia. What makes you come to Goodwood from Australia? It's a long way to come.
Well, it is, but in 1955, I came all the way from Australia to here, and this was my first meeting in England, was at Goodwood.
And what are you driving today?
Driving the 61 Indy car that we built at Cooper's to run at Indy, and that was really the first rear-engine car there.
This is 100 years of motorsport we're celebrating. Which was the most important time for you in the 100 years?
I think 1966 actually was my best time because I won the World Championship for the third time, but in a Brabham car, which is great, and it was an Australian effort.
What do you reckon to motor racing today?
Well, it's all changed, of course, today. I think as far as having fun was concerned, you and I had a lot of fun in those days. But today they've got the money.
What do you think about a guy called Dennis, Ron Dennis? Have you some connection with him, didn't you?
Yeah, he was my mechanic, actually, in the old days.
Was he a good mechanic?
Well, he'd done a good job on my car, yes.
Is he doing fairly well now?
Yeah, I think he's doing all right for himself, yeah.
This is my one and only concession to driving a racing car.
I enjoyed your only concession?
Well, I enjoyed it so much last year, and I had so much fun that I thought it was going to be historic car racing and throw the golf clubs away, or retain the golf clubs and go racing once a year. And this is the golf clubs won primarily because I'm not the world's best racing driver.
What era do you look upon as being the good era?
Well, I suppose the era of making money at it. No, making money just comes from winning races, but I mean, I love all the eras of motor racing. I can appreciate the skill of Fangio and the difficulties of driving cars in those days through to the tremendous abilities of Ayrton Senna.
What about Goodwood and Lord March?
I mean, he has a passion for cars, and what he's done is really quite remarkable. He's one of the most tenacious, persuasive individuals that I've ever come across. I've never seen anybody amass so many cars for so little money in my life. But not only that, this is pretty much the only event in the world where the public can actually get really close to the cars and close to the people involved. And this is an enthusiast's day out. I mean, you won't find anybody here that doesn't love cars. And that means it's very easy for people such as myself to spend time talking to them and to, in fact, enjoy their company. They're just enthusiasts, and that's at heart what I am.
You know the left-hander?
Up here?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you get around it, can you keep it flat through the next right?
Easy peasy.
Can you on this one?
Easy peasy.
How do you get the tyres hot?
Yeah, I know. They'd be much quicker if they're hot. I mean, it's just more exciting when they're cold.
For Ron Dennis, the boss of the McLaren Formula One team, only the best will do. He has brought to Goodwood a race-prepared Grand Prix car and his team driver, Martin Brundle.
I came originally for lunch with Charles March, and somehow I've been given a job to drive this car up the hill, which is a nice surprise at the last moment.
Which car have you got, actually?
Got the McLaren MP49. This is our test car and our T car that's prepared for the French Grand Prix coming up soon.
Well, you mean the very latest job?
This is it. This is the one that's on its way to Manicours very shortly.
So you're getting actual practice on the car you're going to drive then?
Well, this doesn't look too much like any Grand Prix circuits I know.
Have you been up the hill yet?
I just went up with the course car once, so at least I've got an idea which way it turns. So it should be quite interesting. My first journey up there in a Formula One car. Yes, I think the cars were going too quickly. I mean, I did a lap of Silverstone the other day, just prior to them changing the circuit, and I touched the brake pedal twice in the entire lap. We entered 5 corners at over 190 miles an hour, and clearly we're going too fast. So they've got to slow them down, but in the right way.
I mean, just to put that in context, in my day, with same sort of circuit, we'd be doing about half your speed, in truth.
It's a very commercial world now, much more commercial than in your day. I think it's just as fiercely competitive at all times, but there are a lot of other considerations. I mean, the team has to find something like $50 million to run at the front of a Grand Prix. So you can imagine the pressures that are on the teams, drivers, everybody involved. It's great to be able to take some time out, still within motor racing, without enormous pressure on us, and you know, we can lighten up a bit and have a good day.
Great, enjoy. Look at this then, this has to be one of the most unique cars. Look at the aerodynamics of that, absolutely a wall in front. And the height of it. Now if you come round here, and you can see why it's high, because the engine starts there and it goes right the way down here. I mean, this is an incredible piece of machine. This car actually, I understand, was actually debating with other cars for the lead in races over 5 years. It's a long period. It's an old Fiat, of course, and a most wonderful car. George, can you tell us, what's it like to drive this car?
Well, there's no way to explain it, Sterling. There's nothing modern that it was like. You know, there's no whining or anything in the engine. The torque is fantastic.
And then how do you stop it? I mean, it weighs
Well, I
an
have
awful
2
lot.
brakes. I have a handbrake here that works on the rear wheels because it's chain drive. And if the chain broke, you'd have no brakes unless they had a direct brake to the rear. Then there's another set of brakes here that work on the transmission.
Yes. Tell me, what sort of speed will a car like this do?
Well, with the proper chain sprockets on, this car is capable of 120 miles an hour.
120?
In the French Grand Prix in 1912, they were timed at over 105 miles an hour on some of the straights. They were doing more than that. They were doing up to 110 and 115 in 1912 during the French Grand Prix.
And from that sort of speed, how long in distance would it take you to slow up to go around a right
Well, that's the
angle?
problem I have here.
Yes.
This is very dangerous for me, and it's very dangerous for the spectators, and I respect that. So I'm not going to be taking chances. I'm going to let them see the car will run well. I've dealt with these kind of cars for the last 20 years. It's the epitome of racing. When racing was at its most dangerous and the most exciting. And to have an event that honors that, I think, is something that I wanted to be part of.
For the Earl of March, a passion for motor racing is in his blood. His grandfather, Freddie, won races at Brooklands and founded the Goodwood circuit. For the Earl and his team, the job of carrying on that tradition has been no small task. It's taken a year to bring together cars from all over the world.
Even one weekend here that was just, you know,
Good weekend, yeah.
that would be.
Well, I think you should have
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think you should have the Easter Monday meeting just as it was. Practice on Thursday, have Friday off, Saturday.
Saturday off.
And the 9-hour race would be great.
Great, wouldn't it? Yeah. You had a Le Mans start as well, didn't you?
Yes, oh yes, well that's what it should be. Of course you couldn't do that now.
Nice image.
Yes, I think
It's good.
I think Lord March is to be congratulated, I think, and I like to hope he's going to be really successful because he deserves it. The Duke of Richmond and Gordon in my time, Freddie Richmond as we knew him, was such an enthusiast. Of course, he raced himself as well, but he did lay on an incredible party. Right, now, Lord March, what makes you take a beautiful home like yours and turn it open to the public and ask racing cars to come here?
Well, this year is the 100th anniversary of motorsport. The first run that ever took place was between Paris and Rouen in 1894, and we thought that was something not to be missed and that we should put on a big do. So we tried to find the world's most important cars to cover those 100 years, and we go from the Peugeot, vis-a-vis Peugeot 1894 car, which was the sister car to the Paris machine, and go right up to a 1994 Grand Prix car, the McLaren MP49.
And what are you driving yourself?
I'm in Everett Lauman's D-Type, wonderful 1957 Le Mans winner, very special.
Have you been cheating and learning the circuit when we weren't here?
Sadly not silly, no. It's a bit dangerous rushing up and down here when the roads aren't closed, but I guess I've had a few goes on it, yes, but not much.
Well, where does your passion for motorsport come from?
Well, I suppose it comes from the old days of the circuit here at Goodwood, and my grandfather built that in '48, and I used to go always with him till I was about 8. And it was the sort of high point of my year, and obviously we're trying very hard to get the circuit going again just for historic cars, and to have a few race meetings down there and breathe life back into it.
You've got, what, 100 cars, no, more than 100 cars here. Which would you say would be your favourite?
135, I think there are, yes.
Right, well, it makes it more difficult.
Terrible question.
Two then.
Terrible question. God, well, I suppose the big Mercedes is one of them, and certainly the D-Type would have to be up there, and 250F Maserati, that kind of thing. I mean, there's some very unusual, extraordinary machines here as well, and, some weird cars, but I think those two classics would be the ones I'd have if I could.
Your home is truly beautiful. I mean, inside the fine art and so on. Now we've got the fine art of the cars out here. How do you see those things going nicely together?
Well, for me personally, Sterling, they go wonderfully together, yes. I mean, we've got some wonderful pictures in the house, a very fine collection of, French furniture and porcelain stuff, but, the cars are a mobile sculpture, so in my view, the whole thing goes beautifully together. It's high-revving engines and great paintings are all fine. I mean, I have a car in there given half a chance.
Safety was non-existent. I mean, but the great thing you must remember is in my day, 50% of the cars that had a crash would catch fire. Therefore, you wanted to get out. Therefore, belts were taboo, because having a seat belt in is a limitation. So that goes out, right? The next thing you then think of, we didn't realize about covering your arms. I wanted to get a suntan, so I wear short sleeves. Later in my career, in the 60s odd, they said, look, you've got to start doing something about this. So we had poplin, like this is, poplin, and we put it in bicarbonate of soda, hang them up, and that gave some sort of fireproof, not much.
But in the traditions of the sport, the race goes on.
Well, this is a fantastic car. This is the W196 Mercedes-Benz 1955. The great thing about this car is it gave me the opportunity of driving with Juan Manuel Fangio, in my mind, the greatest driver in the world. This car starts, we've got a 2.5 litre, 45 gallons in the back. Now, interestingly enough, there's the helmet. That is actually my helmet, the type I race with, and you can see there isn't much there, it's pretty light. It was actually a polo helmet. But at the time I started, remember, the fast drivers weren't even driving with this on. they had cloth helmets. That's the way it was. No seat belts, obviously. Underneath here is an 8-cylinder engine, about 260 horsepower. This car would do about 175 miles an hour. This was the sort of Williams McLaren of its day. Won every single race except one when we did have trouble. Otherwise, that was the car to drive. Having Fangio as my teammate was overpowering in one way, but as far as I was concerned, it was absolutely the thing I wanted. I mean, if one wants to learn, you go to the master, and Fangio was the master. Now, in the British Grand Prix, which I won, Fangio was second, car's length behind. I came round, got in the last corner first, I pulled over, waved him past, put my foot flat on the floor and thought, well, you would never get me now. Now, I still, even today, don't know whether he said, well, we'll let Sterling win, he's the boy, it's England, it's the British Grand Prix. Maybe he did, I don't know. But a remarkable driver and a great man to be with. The impact was enormous because it was, you know, the first time an Englishman had won the British Grand Prix, I think, since 1920-something. And, of course, a very patriotic crowd. And although it was a German car, they did know there was not at that time an English car that I could drive. And I did carry the Union Jack on the side, and it was an absolutely wonderful occasion.
This celebration of motor racing reflects Britain's supremacy in the sport. British racing green and the car that made the colour famous, the Bentley, have always been synonymous. The spirit of those early days is summed up by former saloon car champion, Gentleman Jack Sears.
Well, I think I first got turned on by seeing films of the 1930 Grand Prix races with the might of Auto Union and Mercedes competing against each other. And then, after the war, when motor racing started again, my first actual visit to a motor race circuit was Goodwood in 1948. And I actually saw you, 46 years ago, win the 500cc race in your Norton Cooper.
Really? And but you were just a spectator?
I was just a spectator, and you were just, you know, the star of the days, young Sterling Moss, who's this guy, and little did we know what was in store for us.
How long before you got in and actually had a race?
I had my first race in 1950 here at Goodwood in a TCMG.
Really?
Yes.
Well, then when did you progress up to this sort of beautiful thing like this?
Well, my father acquired this car in 1955, but the story behind it is that this was the might of England against the might of Germany, because this supercharged Bentley, which was created by Tim Birkin, or better known as Sir Henry Birkin, he had these cars built, and they really had a good duel with this supercharged Mercedes in the 1930 Le Mans race. And actually this car managed to get the lap record driven by Birkin. And it was a 6.5 metre Bentley that went on to win, and they were actually the 5th win that Bentley ever had.
Now, John, you are quite unique. You're a world champion both on 2 wheels and 4 wheels, and you're a patron of this fantastic occasion. What are you driving here, John?
I've got an old friend, I suppose. You may recall we were driving together, and I will remind you that we arrived in Spa, and there was a 196 Mercedes Grand Prix car. You drove, of course, and there was the W125. You took one look at it, saw it had the throttle in the center, and said, "John, you've got it." So yeah, I'm driving the W125 again. The Mercedes, of course, of Caracciola, and so I'm sort of imagining myself, you know, what he would have done with it, and at the same time telling myself, throttle in the center, brake on the right, and so I go along the track muttering to myself this to ensure I don't get the pedals wrong.
John, I remember your changeover from 2 wheels to 4, and you were pretty wild, if I may say. I've said before, following you, one saw more of the front of the car than the back. What did you find as the biggest challenge, the changeover?
I didn't have a real problem in doing the actual speed. That wasn't the problem. The big thing was that I'd never served an apprenticeship. The first car race that I ever saw was the first car race I took part in.
But you stamped your authority in both fields. Now, to stamp your authority, I can understand in motor racing. Is it similar in motorcycles where you have to show, like, who's the boss?
Yes, I think, as old man Ferrari always said, first of all, you've got to have a bit of fire in the belly. Secondly, that sort of sensitivity. With fast corners, I didn't have much problem because the line through the corners and everything was very similar to a bike. And I just had to get used to the sort of relationship of power application being through the foot rather than through the hand. But I did have problem dealing with slow corners because that's so vastly different.
Well, this car for me is one of the most evocative because this is the car, I suppose, that took Prince Bira, the Siamese champion, to win the 3 Roadstar hat-trick of the BRDC. In other words, it meant he was 3 times British champion, well, because he was a member of the BRDC, or even though he was Siamese. And he drove 2 cars. There was this one actually is Remus and Romulus. I read about them because his sponsor, which was Prince Tudor Chakraborty of Siam, and this is when I was quite a kid. And I read about them, and he did so well, and it made me think, my God, what a wonderful sport that must be. The life and the achievements, and of course another thing, remember this was an English car. English racing automobiles is what the ERA meant, and so it was England's answer to the Voiturette racing, and it was fantastic.
The post-war supremacy of the ERA has passed into the history books. But in recent years, that honour has been upheld by teams like Williams and a new generation of drivers.
David Coulthard, what brings you here on a Sunday? I mean, you're racing every week nearly. What are you doing here?
Well, I'm here, Sterling, to continue my education because really I don't know enough about motor racing, and this is where really the foundations of motorsport started.
Now, you're on your first year really in Formula One racing. How are you finding it?
Well, because I've been testing for Williams for the last year, then it hasn't been too difficult for me to adapt to racing the cars. Of course, it's what I've been aiming for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's the pinnacle of the sport. It's where the best drivers are, the best teams are, and the best competition. So I'm enjoying that thrill.
A race-by-race contract must be a slightly difficult situation.
I don't worry about things that I've got no control over. The best thing I can do is worry about driving the car and concentrating all my effort on doing the best job for the team. And if I do a good job, then I'll be in the car. If I do a bad job, of course I won't be. So it's, in my mind, it's very clear, and especially in these days where they have so much telemetry, they can tell everything I'm doing in the car at any given point in the circuit. So there's no way I can try and, hide any weakness I may have and blame it on the car, because they know before I do. So that makes me very relaxed about driving.
Well, I'm glad you had it. In my time, you could have a little bit of bull would help you through. You don't get it now, obviously. What car are you going up the hill with?
I'll be having a run in Aston Martin Vantage later, so I'm scheduled to be out at 12 o'clock. I haven't actually been here testing at all, so I've walked the hill this morning, and hopefully you can give me some tips on where to watch out for.
Well, Jonathan Palmer, you've had quite a long connection with motor racing when we're now doing it, talking about it and winning in it. What are you driving here today?
Well, today I've got this car here, the McLaren F1 road car, but as a complete contrast to that, I've got a Williams car as well, so I'm certainly spoilt for choice, but it's a rather extraordinary one. It's the Williams six-wheeler, which is the test and development car that we had back in 1982 when I was the Williams test driver then, and sadly it didn't get to race because the regulations were changed to ban six-wheel cars that year, but so I've got the 2 cars here, and in fact they're quite evenly matched actually on the speed on the hill here. So far I've done a 54 point something in the six-wheeler Formula 1 car and a 55 in the road car here, which just shows you how far ahead road car development has now got, of course.
God, it's unbelievable. But then today we're celebrating 100 years of motoring, and I presume we can show with either of those 2 cars what motor racing has done to help the ordinary car then.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, it's a fabulous day. We've got a tremendous selection of history of motorsport cars here, as you know, Sterling. But the McLaren F1 road car certainly does demonstrate just what can come out of motor racing. This is the first car to be produced with a carbon fibre chassis. That's a composite chassis. The car only weighs 1,100 kilos, which is the weight of a sort of Ford Escort, something like that. So it's incredibly light, and yet it packs in 627 horsepower from its 6.1-litre BMW developed engine, and on a testing circuit I've done 231 miles an hour with it, so it's absolutely phenomenal, and yet it's as docile as can be around town. Just the car for you actually around London.
Yeah, it would be. It's a shopping car. I like the idea of that.
Well, one of the things that we hear about in Formula 1 now, of course, is that the cars have too much power for the grip now. They have 750, 800 horsepower, and the downforce is being reduced. It's still absolutely colossal, and the grip's colossal still, compared to those cars, particularly pre-war. So what do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that pre-war the drivers had no real grip to speak of, and yet they had 500 or 600 horsepower?
Well,
was it absolutely absurd in those days? Or?
It wasn't, because that was it. I mean, it's the same when I drove drum brake cars. The brakes didn't work, so you drove accordingly, and you obviously had to allow for this. And I think the problem we're in today is that the modern driver is used to such technology as you're talking about, and therefore expects the technology. You suddenly take it away, and understandably the guy says, well, my gosh, this doesn't handle.
Yes.
Of course it's not going to handle. And I think my own feeling is they've got to cut the speeds down and hopefully do it with not have all these chicanes in, but cut the cornering force. You were too young to race here when in its heyday at Goodwood, of course, but what do you think about it, the setting, and why so many people have arrived? What's your opinion?
I think it's a fantastic event, and in fact, although you're absolutely right, I'm too young to race here. I was actually here at Goodwood, like so many people, when you had your infamous accident just down the road. But I think what's great about it here is the fact that we have a wonderful ambience, Goodwood House in the background, together with Lord March, who's so enthusiastic. You know, he gets everybody inspired. People have wanted to bring all sorts of fascinating cars here, but the best thing of all is the fact that we've got this great range of drivers, great range of cars, and the public here have got such good access to it. Get in, Fluffy. Great about it here is the fact that we have a wonderful ambience. Goodwood House in the background, together with Lord March, who's so enthusiastic.
Do this. 2 days here. Oh, all right, I wouldn't break it.
Mobile sculpture, so
Well, listen to that. Isn't that beautiful?